Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy Patience. I decided to come to you guys with a little new one. So, in this one, I wanted to give a little kind of lowdown on why I believe ships need to be somewhat remodeled so as to have a better asking price from us backers and buyers, consumers alike. At the moment, the ships are relatively neat. We have huge sizes, but the sizes don't really compensate for, I guess, utilization, or the utilization space don't really compensate for the ship sizes. And I'm going to go ahead and showcase this off for you guys. Okay, so what I want to do is I just want to show you guys the difference between the Hammerhead, which is here, and obviously V's the C1 Spirit. Now we know the Hammerhead is a lot larger than the C1 Spirit. It's about 115 meters in length or something. We're just going to try and go pull that up here now. Let's see. Hardpoint, let's go specifications. Yeah, so length is 115 meters, and if we go to the C1, the C1 is only 47 meters in length. And if you think about the Hammerhead, for starters, the Hammerhead really doesn't have much to it besides hauling cargo. So I'm going to flip over to that now. And we're just going to go through some of these specifications. So it's a heavy gunship. That's its focus. And description: fast patrol ship with multiple turrets designed for combat. Designed to combat fighters. The Hammerhead is equally suited to support larger capital ships in a fleet, or acts as a flagship for fighter groups. So it's most certainly a backup ship, a ship to try and turn the tides in battle, etc., 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 which is neat. But what if you was to buy the Hammerhead and you was to say to yourself, I don't want to use it for this means or for this cause? How do you go about that? Well, it's got other aspects to it that could allow that kind of functionality for gameplay. What is this? So it has 115 meters in length. That's its measurement, which is very good. And its size is large, obviously, and its mass is 4,260,000 kg, which I believe mass in this instance would be considered as weight. If I get any of this stuff incorrect, be sure to just recover it. You can pitch it, fix it up, leave it in the comments down below, along with your thoughts. The C1 medium freight. Crusader industry brings its usual commitment to excellence directly to the civilian market with the C1 Spirit, a multi-purpose starship tuned for mid-range cargo delivery and courier work, with enough versatility to tackle multiple roles and unpredictable jobs, which is how I use it, which is why I got it, and it's what I use it for. Ironically, it wasn't because of this readout or this sales pitch why I bought the C1 Spirit. I bought it for my own reasons, and the reasons cover each and every single one of these points, which is masterful, it's excellent, it's brilliant. So we're just going to go through a little bit here. So its length is 47 meters, only 47 meters. Beam, I won't cover that bit too much. You can have other uploaders express that for you, because I have no real idea what that is my darn self. But I'm assuming width. But we'll go for beam. So I don't know what beam is. And then you got height, which is 10 meters. Size medium. Mass is only 314,000 kg. So it's not that heavy, which is pretty darn good. But it does your yaw and your pitch makes the ship feel extremely heavy, regardless of its readout here in mass. Its crew minimum and maximum is only 1 and 2. If we go back to the Hammerhead, the minimum and maximum is only 3 and 9, even though the ship is 115 meters. We'll go into a little bit more depth here. Our speed for the C1 is 204 meters per second. The Hammerhead is only 160. You would have to kind of debate that a little bit, or argue against that, which would be, why is it so slow if it's so huge? Because its thrusters are likely going to have more power, to push it. Whereas the C1 are going to have smaller thrusters, though yes, it will probably have a quicker acceleration speed, but the Hammerhead is more than likely going to have thrusters that will power it, especially in space, to go a faster and longer distance. So I think that bit there is a bit weird and a bit of a fault on CIG's part. That's just myself, personally speaking, guys. The strongest bit here is cargo capacity. Now, for 115 meters, if you've ever run like 100 meters, 100 meters is quite long, guys, and this is 115. The cargo capacity is only 40. The C1 is 47 meters and it holds 64 cargo space. Now, it's not like the Hammerhead has ammo aboard the ship that it holds, in storage, so that when it runs out of maybe ballistics, it can reload. But then if that's the case, you could easily go to plasma, and then you exchange your ammo holdings for cargo space. Not only that, but it also has an upstairs and a downstairs, so you can have downstairs as just a cargo floor and the upstairs for mostly crew. To have only 3 to 9 crew members, I believe, is dreadful, it's horrible, and I'm going to explain that in just a little moment. Its afterburner speed is 950 meters per second. The afterburner for the C1 is 1,130 meters per second. So obviously the smaller a ship is, the faster it is, which I believe makes sense. But I believe over a longer distance, the power outage of the thrusters, if they're huge in comparison to a very tiny thruster, over time, the larger ship is going to own in speed regardless. But that's not the kind of feedback that we're getting here. My point with this is, why would I buy the Hammerhead with real money over the C1 with real money? Not just the Hammerhead, any ship that's as big as a Hammerhead but is not utilizing its space in a way that makes any common sense, and the speed doesn't make any common sense either. You got to take into consideration that once or if they start bringing in worlds that actually have mass or gravity applied to it, which is more denser or heavier than that we get on Earth, so it's like 5 times that of Earth, etc., etc., etc. This ship, the Hammerhead, is going to need thrusters strong enough to be able to catapult it out of a world. There's many ways and multiple ways you could go about doing this. So once they bring that kind of technology in, that's when all this stuff will begin to get a lot more interesting. Not only that, but you want to take into consideration that a ship as big as the Hammerhead is going to need a few crucial components implemented into it so as to make it somewhat official or flight ready. One of the things you're gonna need, which are mandatory, are a medical room. That you will have to have. Another thing you're going to need is, you're probably going to need a cleaning room, and you're going to need ample crew to run a ship of this size, not to mention to operate, because this states that you're going to have maybe a pilot or 2, and then everyone else is going to be managing the big turrets on each side of the ship and above. And then once you've got that cleared, done. As far as I'm concerned, I believe that's completely horrible, disgusting. I believe that's the wrong way to design and model a ship. even if you want to go about it as the ship is only for fighting. If it's for fighting, even more so, you're going to need a few mandatory allotments, I guess you could say, implanted into the ship. Medical is one of them, so it would need a medical room. You're going to want a cleaning room. You're going to want to ensure that you've got ample room for crew, which is also very important. Having 3 to 9 people in a ship this huge does not make sense to me. I have a video explaining how you would be able to tackle this, and for something like the Hammerhead, I think it would be very easy. And especially when you've got something like the C1, which is indicating that it can do a hell of a lot more with its space, even though it's only 47 meters. Now, unfortunately, if I go to the Hammerhead, and I come flying down, all the way down, oh wow, it shows it now. It costs practically £700. But if you come to the C1 only costs £120. Now the C1 meets its measurements or its requirements damn near 100%, meaning that it is a multi-purpose ship and it can achieve multiple standards, multiple purposes for an individual. The Hammerhead ultimately falls into that region regardless, but unfortunately it does not meet any of those requirements, even though that should be, you know, kind of like an automatic kind of case scenario. Now, to say that you want £700 for this vessel, I believe is pushing the bar a bit far too high. Yes, the ship design is very good, and yes, the ship design does meet some of its functional purposes, but as far as I'm concerned, not necessarily fully. Now, we got to take into consideration, once you do run out of ammo aboard your ship, you have to go to a space station to restock your ship with ammo. When I say restock your ship, it's not like you know, put more ammo into your chambers and you have ammunition aboard your ship so as to reload yourself once you've run out of your main ammo sets. You just reload the ammo that you've run out of from the battle that you just engaged in. Not only that, but to spend this much on a Hammerhead, the kind of things that I would expect would be other appliances such as refrigerator systems that actually work. Being able to hold storage of food, storages of water, so you ain't got to keep going to the shops, but you can go to, like say for instance, you see a river that has drinkable water, you go and you refill your ships with the water or that resource. Once you've done that, then whenever your character gets thirsty, you may have recyclable bottles. You just go to your dispensers and you just refill your bottle with water, which would be actually awesome. Another thing would be obviously restocking your ship with food. Chances are you're not going to be going planet side all the time, and chances are you're not going to be going to, you're not trying to depend on space stations all the time. You do want to depend on your ship, and as your ship is more as like a backup ship, not necessarily like a fighter ship, though it is a fighter, and you can use it obviously as such. But we just go through this bit again. It says the ability to respond quickly and establish battlefield dominance. So it's to ensure that you maintain dominance within a battlefield. It's not the main player, it's your backup player. That's at least what that insinuates. Are paramount to any kind of security operation. Simply put, Aegis Hammerhead heavy gunship is built to react and fight, outfitted with both manned and unmanned turrets. The Hammerhead is equally capable of providing anti-fighter support for larger capital ships and spearheading a smaller militia or security outfit. I'm not sure with this word. I'm not sure if it's militia or militia, or security outfit. So the Hammerhead comes with obviously a lot of firepower, and its design is for that of like a backup situation to ensure dominance on the battleground, and seemingly to help bigger fighters as well. But you got to assume what you're going to be doing when you're in the Hammerhead and there's no fights going on, and you're just somewhat aloof in space. Are you just flying around up to no good, or are you trying to make? If I like to think of it in a more practical way, are you making money for the UEE? How did the UEE exist? If you're not paying tax, or you're not making money for the UEE, how can the UEE exist? So chances are it can carry cargo. You're going to want to be hauling a lot of cargo. There's no reason to have a whole deck that's useless. So you're going to want to fill it with useful things, and something that's useful and valuable and obviously makes money would be cargo. Cargo could be its second stronghold. There's no reason for it not to have a second stronghold. Now, it's not like once you get into battle, you start picking up civilians. Having spare rooms for civilians would be another stronghold, because you might go and engage in other petty little battles to ensure that certain kind of we'll go with the word institutes have a stronghold over their little regions, and they might be battling obviously hostiles, so you go, or rebels, so you go to help them out just to make sure that order is kept while fighting and all this stuff. Maybe they need to be evacuated. Does the Hammerhead have room for civilians that need to be evacuated from these kind of problems, these kind of situations, environmental problems, environmental situations? No, it just has guns. And guns seem to be the way, and there's other ships coming out with better guns, there's bigger ships and there's better ships. So this price here, I believe, is far too much an asking price for something that I think could be modeled and presented in a far better fashion. The utilize of space is not good enough. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to try and get in game as well and showcase this off for you guys, so we get a better understanding of what I'll be talking about here. So at the moment, that's all I've got for you guys, and I'll bring this out a little bit further for you guys in just a moment. Alright guys, so what I did here was I brought up a little diagram for us to look at, expressing how I believe we could fit more rooms into the Hammerhead, easy peasy, and still have ample room and space to implement shuttle bays. And I'm going to show you where we could put those shuttle bays, and also medical rooms, cleaning rooms, and kitchen, and even room storage for your ship with food and drinks, so you don't have to keep going to the shop every 5 seconds. But before I do go on, there is something that I would like to state. I believe that they should put more stores on planets and worlds, especially at space stations and space hubs, so you don't always have to go running back to the main city. Whenever you land at a space station, you always have to go deep into the space hub, whatever it be called, just to go buy like armors or whatever. They might have a little bit of food stores at the stop-offs, just as you pull up on your hangar and you come out and go up in the lifts. You get a few food stores there as usual. But if you want to get any of that hardcore stuff, then you've got to go planet side, I'm talking, then you've usually got to get on a train and go right the way back, and then you got to come way, usually they have convenience stores, So I'd like to see a little bit more convenience stores, just before I get onto the elevator to go down or up to my ship, or my hangar. Then I can buy my armors and ammos, especially ammo stores, as well as gun stores. I would like to be able to buy my ammo, buy my guns, conveniently right before I get into the hangar. I was kind of even thinking it would actually be pretty neat if in my own hangar, if not purchase my own ammunition store and my own weapon store and my own armor store to be in my hangar as well. Which if I rent my hangar, because I'm probably not going to be in there all the time, then other people could purchase from my ammunition stores, etc., 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 which would be beneficial, because like now I'm looking for sniper rifles that seemingly you can only get from pyro, and I've been asking or trying to ask a couple players to get me a few of those snipers, yet to no avail. So I'll give another shout out, Even Lease and Astro Manny. If you can get me a few snipers from Pyro, because I always see you in Pyro, that would be very nice. And as we don't have no point with wealth in the game at the minute because everyone's rich, I would have to say, out of sincerely, I'd have to ask, out of the sincerity of your heart, the niceness of your heart, out of the, the most pleasant place in your heart, would you please get me some guns? So anyway, so that's what I would like, and the benefits of that would be, because there are only certain things that you can get from abroad, which would be in another star system. As we know, not all ships can go to travel to another star system, which means some people are going to be crippled from taking advantage of of that little journey, that ride, or go into another place in order to pick up weapons and armors that you can't get in other regions until they're able to get themselves another ship. God knows how long that would take, but having friends and having organizations, well, then that kind of benefits you. But then if you're finding it hard to get in with an organization or with a faction, then once you employ someone's hangar, if you're lucky enough, they might be selling those weapons, and if you're lucky enough, they'll be able to sell those weapons to you specifically as someone that's not so important, which I think would be pretty fun and a fine asset to apply into the game. So yes, I would like to see more shops about and around hangars, more stores all over the place. I don't find it I don't understand why I have to go traveling deep into the world just to buy myself armies and medi tools and all this stuff. I would like to see more stores. But anyway, I get back to my ship, or the ship, the Hammerhead. So, or my project, to showcase the Hammerhead, and how I feel like we could up the value to make it meet the requirement or meet the value at which they're trying to asking price. So I'm going to take you guys into this. Also, we could even probably get a little store within the Hammerhead, depending on how we was to go about it. But I'm going to go ahead and take us into a deep dive. So as you can see here, we have a ship. You might say to yourself, why is it so light? Because I have its opacity pretty dark light, which I can go show you that now, which I think would be in well, it's in a setting. It should be a picture setting that should be along here somewhere, but I'm not seeing it. So let's just say I've been outsmarted by Blender a little bit here. I don't think it's because I'm in edit mode or any of that. Nope. But anyway, I'm gonna lessen this opacity for a while, which should make it easier to see what I'm doing on the 3D side of things. And the reason why I've done that, to see the 3D side of things, is because if I take this little zoom here, you can see these many cubes which I use as references to my room, to say this is where you would have rooms in the Hammerhead. So if I come back into my 7th view and I click onto one of these cubes, they highlight and we can see exactly how it would work. So as you can see, the ship has this kind of dip here, so you wouldn't be able to get the same number of rooms here as you would on this side of the ship, which there are the other ones that are highlighted orange. So here I have 15 rooms. If I click onto my modifiers, you can see that I've spaced the rooms out by 2.300 offset, by 2,300 offset. The reason being is because you're going to want to have walls between, you're going to want to have neighbors, you're going to want to have your own space, but also you'll probably be able to put doors between some of these doors, which would lead you off into the centerpiece of the ship here, which is where you could have other access to maybe a deep a more in-depth medical unit, or access to some of these turrets that I believe are on top of the ship here. In this region here of the ship is where you probably likely want to get your little shuttles, so little shuttle bays where you could probably perk a Pisces, and also in this bit here, these kind of ships are likely going to have this because you're not likely going to be on the battleground 24/7, and so when you're not on the battleground 24/7, you may be wanting to pick up minables, or more than likely it'll be cargo. So as we can see here, I've got 15 rooms here. I've got, I think this is about 9 rooms, 13 rooms. So here is 15. We can see the number here, and then over here I've got 13 rooms, and then over here I've got 7 rooms. So if I was to mirror these onto the other side, that gives us how much of that? That's, let's say that's 28, 34, 32, 33, 34, 35. So that gives us 70 rooms. And 70 rooms is pretty neat to play around with, from the 3 to 9 that is currently in at the moment. So 70 rooms gives us that gives us more value. It gives us more value for ample reasons. One, you have more than just the cargo pick guys. Two, you have more people to run other tasks within your ship than you would have usually. And three, if certain crew members get sick, you easily have access to other crew members, and you can also train them up to run certain specific tasks within your ship as well, which is pretty darn awesome. It also takes you into that aspect if you could if ships had their own identity, as it were, their own kind of uniqueness. So flying an Aegis Hammerhead is not as easy, or is not similar to flying a RSI Aurora. So just because I can fly an Aurora doesn't mean that I could get up one day and say I'm going to go fly an Aegis Hammerhead, because number one, I need more hands than just two, and number three, I've got to take a lot more things into consideration. There's a lot more thrusters, and there are a lot more technicals that go into just lifting the ship off the floor, as to flying the darn thing, as to operating it, as to getting it back down on the ground for landing. So taking these things into consideration. So that's how I kind of figured one could utilize the space within this ship to be a little bit better. You also have these bits here that I'm not too familiar with, but we're going to take a deep dive in the game in a moment. But I just wanted to showcase this off a bit. Obviously we have the center bit of the ship here, and then if you was to kind of take all of this. So we made 70. So as to the current 40 SCU that the Hammerhead can currently handle, if you were to utilize all that space from here right the way down, to about here, I'm not sure if you can see that, but right the way down to about here to here, okay, all of that region in the center of the ship there. So we'll do this a bit better. I don't know if you guys can see this, but I hope you can. This region here, either here, or because the cargo shuttle bays would only be on the top floor or the bottom floor, you could have them on both floors, so 4 shuttles, or however you want to do it. This bit here, all of this will be filled with cargo, so that gives you a little bit more than 70, not to mention the in-between parts are likely going to be filled. So I'm guessing you can get about 200 to 300, probably more, 500 cargo unit space within the Hammerhead alone. That's when you're not using it for its I guess its primary cause or its primary task, which is kind of a combat fighter, but now you're using it as like a side conquest, which is managing cargo, and you could probably even have little vehicles in the back here, so you could do little expeditions like mining with the rock, or if you could get bigger rovers than the rock, then you can go out and do like heavy mining expeditions and load up the back of your ship with mining gear, and then you go off and cash it all in. So that's how I was thinking one could up the value of the Hammerhead, so as to make it the value of which we are seeing currently in game. What we're looking at here. So yeah, so that's how I did that. Now I'll just showcase you something a minute, just give me a sec. So now what I'm going to do is, as you can see, everything has been kind of locked in. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mirror this so we get an idea of how it would look had it be officialized, as it were. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and apply all transforms, and then I'm going to click in and get my mirror modifier, and so that's now the image that we'll be looking at. So I would like if Blender actually gave me the raw count of images I had on, at least I think, and then you get the little rooms in between as well. And then in this bit here, so if I just get this, I can draw it'd be better if I was doing this on my little Surface Pro, but in this region here of the ship, I'll just draw a little region around it. That bit there and this bit here, I believe you could have 2 ships in there. If not 2, then 1. It depends on how big this is, but we're going to go check it out in game in just a moment. And then here we'll probably have doors. These doors will be crucial for whatever crew members it is to come in here and get to the turrets. And here we could have doors again, which would lead to whatever this is. If that's supposed to be a thing or not, that I do not know. And then you would have doors on this side too, which could help you get to the center of the ship, or here. Not to mention this turret here, so you'll be able to get to that turret, and these bits, and then somewhere in here you could probably have a med room, and obviously shuttle bays, and then somewhere maybe within this region here, or maybe on the floor below this bit, or maybe within these bits, or whatever. You have your storage systems like a giant fridge, a refrigerator, where you store obviously your foods, your waters, and you want to be able to store water on your ship, like a tank, so you can get your dispensers and refill your bottles. All these things make the ship go up in value, most part because you don't have to depend on stores every 25 seconds. Yes, you will have to go back to a store to refill your ship at some stage, but you don't have to keep going back to replenish yourself and your team. Each and every single teammate, there's about 67 to 70 of you, are going to need refreshments, sustenance at some stage or another, and chances are majority of you ain't gonna need that sustenance at the exact same time. So you're gonna have to keep backing and forth into stores if you're not all well equipped the way how some people may not be as managed as other people. So you have to take that into consideration. All these things up the value of a ship. All these things will up the value. So £700 or $700 at the current moment asking price, I think is a bit too much for a ship that could be delivering a hell of a lot more with its already inserted in functions. Everything it currently does, plus more, which I believe would be a way of saying yes, okay, I feel that's a fair asking price. Unfortunately, at the current moment, I myself would not purchase a Hammerhead with real cash, and also I believe that a Hammerhead in game is slightly too much, because I feel like currently we're only paying for the size of the ship and the respectiveness of the ship, meaning that it was one of the first largest ships that was brought into the game, placed in Hurston. It does look amazing. It's got the guns, it's got the turrets, it's a multi-functional ship, and that's practically all we're paying for. There's other ships in the verse that serve a better cause and a better functionality. The C1 being one of them. It has better cargo unit. It's an all-rounder ship, and it actually serves its purpose. I'm not saying that this ship does not serve its purpose, but it's more like a one-way street, as it were, because if you want to use a Hammerhead for anything other than battling, you're going to have a little bit of a problem. I don't know if it can hold a vehicle in it, including all of this stuff as well, but holding vehicles are very important, especially for a big vessel like this, as well. So there's other ships that have better weapons, if I'm not mistaken, that are also smaller than this. One of them being the Drake Corsair, and you have other ships alike. So taking these things into consideration, I do think that the Hammerhead has to be debunked. I guess you would say looked over, revised, and rechecked, and somewhat upgraded, crucially, damn near immediately and drastically, to make it more to make the asking price reasonable and realistic, because currently I feel like it's retarded, and I have no idea why CIG is operating in that manner or fashion, because I'm pretty sure they are they're smarter than that. So yeah, so that's that, guys. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try and bring us into the main game now, so that I can give us an overview or an insight of the actual ship itself, so I get a physical understanding of the embodiment and how some of this stuff could or could not be possible. But if you did not know, I do have an upload on one of my channels expressing how cubicles could be used in a more functional way to make rooms more efficient and effective within ships, and for players alike within ships, because at the moment I feel like what they're doing is they're making rooms that are far too extravagant, and because of that, as well, they're trying to bump the value of the ship, but it also cramps space within the ships. So yes, we move on to the next scene now, guys. I just want to showcase the Hammerhead a little bit more as an extension from what I was just showcasing onto you guys. But at the same time, before I do go there, I want to just explain a little bit more about the Moby glass. So it's come to my attention that if you remove all your Moby glasses, those that you purchase and those that are adhesive to your mesh or adhered to your mesh, kind of by default, you can't make any purchases, guys. I don't know if you can sell, but you most certainly can't do any purchasing at all. So if you're in need of drinks or whatever, there's no way that you will be able to survive because you can't buy or anything. So I think that this needs to be changed. I know a lot of players have been complaining about being respawned with armors and weapons and all this nonsense, but I think it would be more beneficial if we could be resurrected with the mobile glasses that either one we're wearing or that one, the one we purchased. Why? This will probably explain why this happens by default anyway, because usually when we die we come back with a mobile glass. A reason or an excuse for this would be that the mobile glass is something that is identified to a human, or something that could be likened to a human as such, like a bone or skin. So something like an organic feature that we would wear in the future, for identification purposes, something like having a chip in your head, but in this instance it would be something like Mass Effect. They had something that was called the Omni tool. In this instance it would be the Moby watch. The good thing about this would be, you could liken it to something like Guyver, where the main protagonist of that show, he wore a biosuit, and this biosuit was something like adhesive to his embodiment. So it healed him, it strengthened him, it did all this stuff. So similar to the Moby watch, maybe the Moby watch could be something that's attached to us, something like organically, so it resurrects with us. It's kind of like respawned with us as to armor that has nothing to do with us. It's just an outer casing that we get into. So what you would likely do is insure your armor and insure your weapons, so that when you do die, you can just easily go and collect these things from your insurance dudes, or from your lockers. In any case, you usually pay for insurance, guys. It doesn't make sense why a lot of us be trying to get rich in game anyway if we're not going to be trying to use our in-game earned cash for these reasons and causes. That's the whole reason why you make loot in the game, guys, to use it. So that would be my asking. Being able to either one, come back with your new mobile from the switch out, because when you die you come back with the original one anyway, so why not make it the new one that you purchased? That way you don't gotta keep purchasing Moby glasses. Or two, when you die you don't come back with any. Unfortunately, as you can see, there are no stores nearby. Stores are something that are very few in this title. The only store that you have in the whole of Lawville would be the store back there, which is something that they need to address. I want to see stores all over the place, guys. But as you can see, the Hammerhead has no real particular shape. So you got to say, is it the shape that CIG finds valuable? Is it the turrets that CIG find valuable? The hull and the turrets that makes this vessel valuable is something that I want to find out. What makes it 47, practically 50 million, in cost? because you got to say to yourself, why would it cost so much, and why would you ask players to spend £700 on this vessel, or maybe £1,000 or £698, depending on how you want to look at it. But anyway, the design is pretty darn niche. You have this little centerpiece here with a space in it, which I'm not really too fond of my darn self, because if there was no space, you could fill all of this with cargo, and you could probably fit a medical bay and have docking pads in this, which I think would be relevant to a ship like this. Even though it is combat ready and it's for combat, you got to take certain things into consideration. If you're going to be bringing this ship out for combat, and it's practically a combat ship, how are you going to be making your income if all you're going to be doing is combat? Because you got to say to yourself, if you're going out on the combat and your main role as well is like a support ship, and you're going to be helping big vessels and you're going to be helping smaller vessels, there's other ships out there with guns the size of what the Hammerhead has. You also have dangerous ships out there as well, something like the Drake Corsair, which packs a real serious punch. And you have quite a few other larger vessels out there that pack serious punches that could really harm a Hammerhead. Now, even if you do win the battles that you go into, most missions kind of don't pay you enough to maintenance your ship. So that's one thing you've got to take into consideration. You've also got to take into consideration that not only do you have to maintenance, but you've got to travel to battle as well. So you've got to take these things into consideration, as well as you have to pay for your ammo. Especially if you're using ballistics, you are going to have to pay for your ammo, you're going to have to pay for your missiles. So these things all cost, guys. So asking for a high price and £700 could be a bit of an extortion when you kind of think about it, in comparison to what this ship is and what it delivers, and its primary task as to what it could be. So that's what we're going to go check out now. If anything, I could kind of showcase it's obviously 115 meters amidst all these rows here, this row and this row. You could have cargo scattered all about there, and then coming up here, ending just around here, just like I showed you guys. And then in these little situations here, these little flaps at the back of the ship, we're going to get a more in-depth look at how it looks, but you could get shuttle bays where you could put either two Pisces on one, and etc, etc, etc. So now we're going to go get a deep dive into this little thing and see exactly how it'd be looking, and the price range that they have, and if we think they're being a bit too presumptuous. Defense is also something to take into consideration, and security. We have this entrance situation up here, which I think is pretty darn nifty, but that's something that we're going to look into. I like these bits here, which I'm going to point out for you guys, these little bits here. At first I thought they were like missile racks, but I'm pretty sure they're space brakes, because we also have them here. So I'm guessing naturally you have VTOLs, which is pretty darn awesome. I'm not sure if they're thrusters, I doubt it. I like the landing gears, because the landing gears kind of look not necessarily simple, but not too technical in design and engineering. So if you was to damage your landing gear, very neat. So we'll do a quick lowdown of how the ship looks natively, and then we will kind of run our statistics to see how we would go about it. So as you can see, we got nothing but turrets on each side of the ship. What we see on one side of the ship is exactly what we see on the other side. This is that door that I was telling you guys about, which is pretty darn neat because you have that entrance that I just came up on, which is going to be mirrored on the other side, and you also have an entrance down here for the cockpit. The only way to get down to the cockpit from the bridge is to use the ladder, so we're going to use that. You might get a double frame animation here because it's just how it always goes. But as you can see, we got the cockpit. Now take note that this ship only consists of 3 to 9 crew, or is it 13? I can't remember which it is, but either way it's very minuscule as to what it could hold. And these are the 2 guys that will be up the front. I would like this bit to be pushed back somewhat quite considerably in order to hold 9 people in here. 2 pilots. I think this ship should hold a tractor beam, and a few people sitting on the sides here for maintenance, for control, system controls, and for to check the general I guess you could say output and situation of your ship. There's a lift here, I believe, that takes you down outside, which we're not going to use. We're going to go back upstairs. Hopefully we don't get a double animation again. And that'll be that. So that's the cockpit. So you come this way and you got to think to yourself now, though I do like this little situation, you got to take pricing into consideration. Now we're gonna do a double over. You come this way, you come back into your ship, you stow your stuff away, and then you come in and you go about your way. You're doing whatever it is you're doing, and that's pretty darn cool. But you gotta think to yourself, ironically, there's a ship ahead of us. If you're in a space battle and your components and your systems are somewhat compromised, and your ship is very laggy, this door's shut quite a few times, so it opens up, you know, it defaults, and then your systems actually come to a halt and your crew's trying to run around frantically trying to get things back up and running again. The enemy's gonna come floating in should they have their brain screwed on, and if that's the reason why they're attacking you. See, situations here are actually storage units, so they can come in and within seconds loot you and go straight back out. Now I don't know if CIG did this on purpose, because when this game goes live there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be starting out, and if they're not in orgs and they're not got like a load of friends or some sort of faction that they're involved in, it's going to be very hard for them to kind of like grow relatively quick. But if you're able to loot a Hammerhead or be involved in some sort of a looting scheme to where you could just quickly jump in, grab stuff and then quickly jump out, you could be miles ahead in a short period of time. And if you're in the know-how and you know that's a potential possibility, you might be in for a lot of luck. So I don't know if they did this on purpose to help people in the future, or if they literally were just that dismissive about the kind of combat ship that they were designing at that present moment in time. I would say that lowers the value of this ship quite considerably. I would say that knocks off actually quite a few millions, especially when I propose what I would have done. I would have turned this into a pressurized room, depressurizing. So as you come in here, instead of all of this stuff, because you can put this anywhere else in this ship, I would have turned into a depressurized room. So as you come in, due to space and obviously radiation and all the other harshness that comes with it, you cleanse yourself before you come into your ship. This way half of your team are safe from radiation or any kind of harmful antibodies that could affect their bodies due to space, of course. So that's what that would have been perfect for. Something to help cleanse your suits and your embodiment before you engage or enter into a situation where you're going to be integrated into a lot of into civilization, because it works both ways, not just with your ship crew, but as you're going back into planet side, your ship is in space, so it's going to accumulate a lot of radiation. So before you leave your ship, you're going to want to depressurize yourself and make sure that you rid yourself from any kind of radiation and your armor from radiation. Coming this way, we got these things. I don't think they're security cameras, but it would be nice to have security cameras because it's a big ship, and at the moment there's only 9 people running this big vessel. It's easy for someone to come in, run and hide and loot you over time, or set bugs and traps, or cripple your systems from the inside. So that cripples the value of this ship. You got turrets. I would have had the turrets upstairs on the crew deck, and they remain upstairs until someone gets in them. It sinks down and fits you into place. As well, there's nowhere on this ship where you have ammo stoves, where you can stow away ammo for your ship to reload when you're out deep in space, so you don't always have to go running back to planets or space stations when you're in a crucial battle or when you're defending your team. And this leads us back outside. As I said, it replicates what's on the other side. This is just an empty corridor otherwise. The roof is low because of this thing, and then as you come this way, you can easily hurt yourself if you're coming down these stairs. This is to the other, what do you call these things, turret. And then aside from the turret, you have these things, which are escape pods. I would have preferred to have seen escape pods maybe in the floor or anywhere else in the ship besides here, because all this stuff could be changed into something entirely different. Not to mention, this person here is going to become a point of a major target. So all these things are, you know, like they're in harm's way. Let's just put it that way. And then you come this way. We're heading to the rear of the ship. Obviously, we've got the next exit, which means we're heading to the front of the ship. We're going this way. And then here we got the crew's quarters, which is going to be the same, replicated on the other side. So you got 4 beds, bunk beds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, I guess it's just one room. And then you got the captain's quarters. And if you were to do the bunk bed in my case scenario, instead of just having 67 crew members or possibly 70, you can actually get yourself maybe about 110 people crew, or 120, which will actually be pretty darn neat. Then we come off into the cargo bay. Let's pull the elevator up so we can get a better understanding of how this looks and how this beads. So let's just grab that up. Here it comes. And atop this we could probably get a nurser, which is pretty darn neat, but it's not that great. But it would give you medical accessibility. Besides that, I doubt you'll be able to get a Pisces on there. And that's all you get for cargo, which means you got to take fuel into consideration, you got to take ammo into consideration, you got to take maintenance into consideration. If this is the only income that you're going to have besides battling, which ain't going to necessarily drag you in a huge income, then you're going to have trouble trying to make money to maintenance your ship and to fuel your ship and to reload your ship, especially with the amount of guns that you have, and especially if you choose to go ballistics. And then obviously we have ourselves another turret here. Over here we have ourselves the, what do they call this? Is this a maintenance? I think it's a maintenance situation. And the interesting thing about this is if we come this way, we will have the same thing over here as well. So I don't know if I've got to call the elevator. And this bit is a very interesting bit, because outside you would think the Hammerhead has maybe 2 floors, 3 floors, but technically it only has 1 floor. So you come here and then you can see this stuff, and We got a serial number down there, which is pretty darn awesome. There's no information here to say what these screens are all about, but I'm pretty sure they're maintenance stuff as well. But we're going to come through here. Engineering, so cargo engineering, and the bit downstairs was cargo engineering as well. But as you can see, we got shell generators, radar. We had those elsewhere as well. I would actually like to see those implemented in the floor or somewhere more safe. And here we have a kitchen, which is pretty darn neat. We got the units, and back here we have this small little stowaway situation where you can put your drinks in, your frozen foods, your goods, your foods. But what I would like to see personally, what's this? Engineer access, engineer access, engineer access. I would rather see freezers and fridges, shelves containing your drinks, your foods. I don't know if we'll ever be cooking foods in the future, but you know, you're going to want to have a chef likelihood. All of this, fridges and freezers, cupboards where you could store lots of foods, because you don't want to have to keep running to space stations and planet side every 25 seconds. I would also like storage of, you know, where you might have water containers. I won't necessarily say containers, but water units stored in your ship. So you could actually go to these dispensers and get yourself, refill your water bottles rather than having to always go and purchase water bottles. And this table is like actually a good size, because once the chef cooks, people will come in here on rotas. You would assume if you got yourself 170 or 120 crew members or 110, you might want to think about expanding this space a little bit. But we come out and then we come this way, and the interesting bit is it takes you right back downstairs. So all that space is quite irrelevant. Let's just call this elevator. These elevators are a bit tricky. They're a bit risky. What I would have done was put like a fence here. Once the elevator arrives, the fence slides out of the way, and then, you know, to prevent you from dropping. But anywho, so we're gonna go down, and that's it for the top floor. So there technically is no top floor, guys. There technically is no top floor. So we're back on the middle floor. Obviously the bottom floor is where the cockpit is, and that's all you get. So what I would have done, I'm gonna take us to the bridge, and this is what I would have done in order to make to add value to Hammerhead, guys. Now what I would have done is, here is the bridge, and going with the same analogy that I went for in my diagram, which hopefully I've left quite a few references to that during this this showcase here, is we have the cockpit. I would have pushed it back. I would have put more people to help with the pilot, co-pilot. There would have been ample seats, because if the co-pilot goes down for whatever reason, it's just this guy, and if the pilot goes down, it's just this guy, and the responsibility is a bit awkward. So you want to make sure that you have enough crew to help and back up your two primary pilots. This wall here takes you nowhere. So what I would have done to make this space, this lower space here, very useful, was just put cargo. You fill that space going right back 115 meters and fill all of this space here with cargo. With this door, maybe it can open up so the pilots can go back if this region's not filled with cargo, and they could also exit out the cargo bay, rather than having to use this ladder to exit the ship, which is never too bad. But if you are kind of commandeered by hostiles because they got in through this access point here, you'd like to believe this is a security door, so it'd be hard for them to access. It gives your boys time to quickly run out the ship. These bits would have been blocked off. Instead, it would just be all of this would be, if not a second floor, So you got the floor beneath, you got this floor, and then you got the floor up top. If you don't do it this way, then all of this, I guess it would be from here to here, would be cargo going right the way back from the cockpit. These bits here could be where you have all your maintenance, your kitchens, your fridges, your engineering, all of that stuff. You'd have ample room for all of that. And then upstairs you have your crew rooms. And obviously you got the little sockets between each room, so you got doors. And then what I would have done, because this ship is souped up with guns anyway, so you don't necessarily need so much guns, especially if you can't restock them and all this stuff as quickly as you like, or a variant to the Hammerhead. In here, spanning majority of this bit would have been a medical bay, which is where you could now respawn, or you know, a tier 1 bed, tier 2, tier 3, however you want to go about it. And then that would have been all good. Obviously back there where I said you got those flats where you could have put had a shuttle bay for maybe Pisces and those things. Obviously here we have no access. This is not necessarily a nice way to do your little job. And this hind turret, you would have been able to access it from above. So all the turrets would have been accessed from above, and maybe the above turret you would have accessed from above, and it kind of just sloops you up. You got sprinklers, so you don't necessarily need fire extinguishers, but having fire extinguishers are good. This bit is practically unnecessary. You can, but I think I would have had these lifts, the side lifts, wherever they are. Anyway, the side entrance lifts would have been the lifts to take you right up to the crew quarters. So it stops here, it misses the cargo bay floor, so it comes up here, and then from here it goes straight to the crew quarters, where all your crew will be snoozing. And that's how I would have done it. So that would have been perfect utilization of space. That would have been perfect utilization of this little space here. You could have stowage and all that around the kitchen area, however you want to go about that. This is practically perfect. The gun case scenarios are perfect, and if you didn't choose to go about it that way and you want to go like this style, then and you're choosing to go ballistics, most certainly you're going to want to have ammo storage units stored in your ship, so that when you do run out of ammo, you don't have to go back to space stations or to a planet side. You can just easily reload your ship there, and if you run out, then you've got the option to go back to the space station or to another planet side situation. At the moment, this is no different to any small ship or any other ship that has to currently go running back to a space station, abandoning whatever they were dealing with, which makes this a poor quality combat ship, unfortunately, from my perspective. So that's something that I would have to address my darn self. It's something that I think they should address themselves, and as a result, I would say that this ship is practically worth about 5 million. Due to the fact that it is a large combat ship and a large combat ready ship. I'll probably put it at best 10 million, 12 million, and it's buying price to ask from us consumers, with real money that is, then I would go ahead and say that it costs about £260, possibly 300, but unfortunately I do feel like 700 is far too much an asking price. £698, whatever, is far too much an asking price, most part because the C1 is a ship that only costs £120, but its functionality is a bit more useful and a bit more close to its, I guess you can say, description than the Hammerhead, unfortunately, and respectively. So for that, if you was to pair them up, the C1 is a lot smaller than this ship, but it also holds a lot more cargo than this ship, and this ship has no reason for utilizing space as to, so as to carry more cargo. There's no reason for it to be so tight with cargo space and cargo offering for the crew. There's no reason to have so little crew on this vessel either. So for that reason, I would say CIG is a bit too presumptuous. They're a bit too headstrong, and I think they're getting a bit too carried away and kind of depending on our hype for these vessels, because at the time the Starfarer and the Cutlass, not the Cutlass, the Starfarer and the Drake Caterpillar were the only real big ships out at this time. This one came and it was another big ship, and it had a very strong punch with those big guns, and everyone loved it because it looked dangerous. But now in the future we can compare it against many other ships and see that its functionality clearly does not stand up to the reputation. So even one needs a rework, or two, the price needs to be knocked way down. So anyway guys, that would be my verdict on the Hammerhead vs the C1. If you agree, leave your comments. If not, leave your comments. It's your boy Patience. Leave your thumbs and likes in the comments down below. Over and out, guys.